Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
I'm Bob Scarborough.
And I'm John Gaver.
and we are the
Oh,
FAIRtax Guys. All right, and you may have noticed my new background. This is in honor of the Artemis mission that is coming back this afternoon. We're recording this on Friday morning. They are supposed to come back this evening, so hopefully all will go well by the time this streams. Of course, we hope everything has gone well with that mission. And that's just kind of cool. But John, again, thanks for being with us here on FAIRtax Power Radio. We are going through your 22 goals that an ideal tax system should meet. And we're going to be looking at this from, look at each one, how the fair tax meets the goal, how the income tax doesn't. So we're going to pick your brain here this afternoon, and I'm going to let Mr. Scarborough kick off things because this next one is one of his favorite topics here.
Okay, before you do, let me tell you the way these goals came up. Initially, in the book, The Rich Don't Pay Tax, I came up with, I forget how many goals, I think it was like 14 goals. People who read that book liked that, and that's what inspired the tax deception, and they asked, well, what about this goal? What about that goal? So these are goals that a lot of the last few, and they may not be in order, but the between like 14 and 22 were goals that other people recommended, except I did put in one about crypto.
All right.
So the dynamic of the fair tax, which of course we know switches our collection for the U.S. Treasury from taxing income to a consumption tax paid at the cash register by just a simple retail transaction. The cool thing about, and this is one of the things that I like about it, and this is goal number 10 in the book, The Tax Deception, reward savings and investment. And we know that money that is saved or invested is never taxed, while only new goods and services are taxed, and that's pretty much it. It eliminates tax on interest, capital gains, dividends, allows savings to grow tax-free. And I hear a lot of people, John Gaver, say, okay, well, that's good, but what about the time where it switches over? How is that going to affect my 401k for that moment that it becomes a non-taxable appreciated event? So,
well, anything that you've already paid is already paid. But on day one, from when the fair tax is enacted, all future growth of your 401k and other things like that, there's no tax on. And one of the things that I always like to point out in relation to goal number 10 here is that if you want more of a thing, this is basic psychology 101. If you want more of a thing, you reward that thing. If you want less of a thing, you punish that thing. That's how you teach children, reward and punishment. Well, right now, the income tax is punishing savings and investment. They tax savings and investment. That must mean that they want less savings and investment. Under the fair tax, there is no tax on savings and investment. They're rewarding savings and investment.
right.
So that was the whole idea behind this goal. It doesn't punish what we want. That's basic psychology.
And what we were talking about before we began the program today, how is it that in terms of rewarding savings and investment, how is it impeded when you look at the income tax? How is savings and investment hit with a hurdle to get over when it comes to the income taxes as we are currently living under?
Well, we have a business income tax. That is a tax on business savings and investment. There's your investment. You start a business, so now you've got a corporate income tax that applies to a business that has that it's not a person. And as I always like to say, only people pay tax. a business doesn't pay tax; they just pass it along.
Correct.
And so what we're doing though is we're artificially raising the prices of products, and it makes it harder for U.S. businesses to compete with overseas businesses. If we stop taxing business, if we stop taxing that 401k, if we stop taxing just your basic savings account, whatever you are invested in, whatever you are using for savings, whether you're starting a job out of your home or whatever, you've stopped taxing production. It's all about whether you're taxing production or you're taxing spending. Right now we're taxing production, so that means we want less production. That's what the government wants. And personally, I want more production. I want to see businesses thrive. I want to see more jobs. And if you don't have that tax on savings and investment, then suddenly you have more reason to spend money on something else, to build a better bigger plant, hire more people. But right now, around 25-30% of all of your business, of everything that you produce, is taxed. So that if you take that 25 or 30% away, you can now start hiring more people, building a bigger factory, doing whatever it takes to improve your business.
And that will, as they say, the rising tide lifts all ships. So as the economic activity and the economic growth that not taxing this savings and investment will do, I mean, everybody's going to benefit from that.
Yes, everybody does, because like I said, it goes down to jobs. It goes down to how much your phone costs. It's everything, every little thing that you do. It's by not taxing savings and investment, it allows more creation at less money.
Yeah, well, we've seen projections that the FAIRtax would ignite double-digit GDP growth, and
Yes.
we're doing good to get 4% under the income tax.
Right.
All right, so let's move on here, so our time doesn't get away from us. This next one, every time we look at one of these, we say, "Oh, that's a biggie," and this is a good one as well. That the income tax does extremely poorly. The FAIRtax does immaculately well, and that is tax the illegal economy.
Yes, and that's different than just what people talk about is tax the underground economy, but this is the illegal economy. This is drug dealers, gun runners, people that live below. I don't know the term. They're the people that
Outside the law.
Yeah, outside the law. And so these people, whether it's the drug dealer on the street or it's the crime lord living in his mansion in Chicago or something, doesn't matter where he is, what level of income he has, when he spends that money from his ill-gotten gains, he's going to be taxed under the FAIRtax. And today, that guy doesn't report his ill-gotten gains. Oh, but wait. They have a new law that's just a couple of years ago, if you recall, a new law that says if you have ill-gotten gains, you've got to report it. So
That's in Publication 17.
Publication 17, that's right. And you think those people here's some guy who carries a gun and uses it to intimidate people, and he's going to report his ill-gotten gains because, it says I've got to do that in Publication 17, so I guess I better write that down and turn it in so that they can come get me because I just reported what I was doing illegal.
And I haven't looked at it that way, but you're right. And that goes for individuals that are borrowing their neighbor's lawnmower without returning it within the calendar year.
Right, but you have this criminal who's selling drugs, and he says, "Well, I made $40,000 or I made $200,000 selling drugs on the street." Well, now they've got it in his handwriting. Let's go arrest him. He's not going to do that.
Yeah, but he buys things
but he buys things.
When you buy things, you pay the fair tax. End of
Whether,
story.
whether he's the guy on the street who buys a beer, or he's the crime lord who's driving a Mercedes, when he buys that new Mercedes or he buys the beer, he's paying tax.
Amen. Well, I want to get the guys that get the guys that buy Learjets. There'll be a lot of tax on that.
Absolutely, yes. Even putting one of those things in a hangar. I did some research on that a while back. I used a Gulfstream 4, sort of a mid-sized jet.
Oh, yeah.
He would pay 5 times what you and I pay in tax, at least, just for hangaring that aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
That's before he hires a pilot and takes off and has a cabin attendant and landing fees and everything.
You fill the tanks with jet fuel, and the way the jet fuel prices are going these days,
Right.
That would be incredibly expensive. All right, number 12, repatriate offshore jobs. Explain how that works.
Well, today, what we've seen recently, in fact, that was the subject of this book, The Rich Don't Pay Tax. There we go. Or do they? We have a lot of people leaving the United States, wealthy people, and they've taken jobs with them. And with the fair tax, there's no income tax. Suddenly, it becomes more advantageous to come back here. And a lot of these people who've taken jobs, whether they've left the country and renounced, or whether they're a CEO that just says, we can make more money doing this in India. Now he can make more money doing it in the United States. And these people, they don't want to leave the United States. They have a lot of benefits from doing jobs in the United States. They can produce a better quality of customer service in the U.S. than if it's off in some country where they speak a language that nobody on the board of directors speaks.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have the advantage of bringing that job back to the United States, and they can make money doing it. That's one of the big things. That chapter, I think, goes into quite a lot of different things. But the big thing is that these corporate CEOs have an incentive to bring the jobs back if it was not for our current tax system that punishes them. They have to pay 7.65% payroll tax just to hire somebody in the United States. That goes away. There's no income tax. So even if it was a customer service person that doesn't provide income, they still don't have to pay that 7.65%. But if they're producing a green widget, they don't have to pay that 30% plus the 7.65% added into the price of that green widget. So they can now reduce the price and compete with, Chinese or whatever other products.
And for a lot of corporations that are multinational, their focus from a standpoint of shareholder return, they are looking strictly at the dollars. And if they can make more money by bringing their increased shareholder value or make a larger profit by bringing their operations back to the United States, then which means jobs will be plentiful. And with the economy, if you look back at what we talked about a minute ago, all of these goals are essentially tied together. You go back to goal 9 and compliance costs are reduced. The fact that it's more profitable for a company to be in the United States of America as opposed to, or even just an investor who is looking for a way to get the best dollar return. The fair tax allows all of that to happen. Offshore jobs, if they're in Taiwan or wherever they might happen to be, Vietnam. I've seen, some of my clothes that I wear sewn together in Vietnam. Those companies could essentially move operations back to the United States, but it goes even deeper than that because, as you said a minute ago, John, all of the costs of producing whatever the product is falls away at every stage of the production process. The fair tax provides that, and that also brings the next item up, goal 13, bringing back lost wealth. That and offshore jobs being repatriated are tied together for sure. What is it, Bob Paxton? About 13 or 14 trillion dollars in money that's offshore right now?
I have heard quite a number of different numbers on there, but they all start with the T. Trillions of dollars is off there. And,
Right.
the bottom line, the income tax system is driving it away, and the fair tax would bring it back.
Right.
And one of the things that I've found that when I'm talking about the fair tax is I always use the lowest number, because even the lowest number, no matter how many trillion you're talking about, it's still a trillion. Just like you said, Bob, it's a trillion. Whether it's 1 trillion or 20 trillion or 40 trillion, I asked the person how many trillion dollars is offshore. Once they've admitted it's over a trillion, we have a problem.
Yeah, we could go a long way towards wiping out our national debt with that.
That's right.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So we've got to repatriate lost wealth, repatriate offshore jobs, but we want to encourage, a lot of money around the world to invest in the United States, hire Americans, create American-made products. And the fair tax, much better than any other tax system you could name, would encourage foreign investors to invest here, would it not?
Yes, it would. And now this is different than the repatriate offshore jobs, because in this case, you don't have that patriotic thing. Now, how did I get there? Is that
there's your phone again?
Somehow.
He's a busy man. John Gaber's a busy man.
I thought I had quieted that thing down, but apparently not. So anyway, but this is different than repatriating lost wealth, because the people who sent the jobs overseas, they're English speakers. They have that language barrier. They are born in the USA, and most of them have at least some degree of patriotism, and they want to bring jobs back if they can, and they can do it economically. We're talking about here encouraging foreign investment, so we have to take companies like BMW and Sony, the big foreign companies. Well, Sony, they speak Japanese. BMW is German. That their boards don't have that encouragement. But what they do have here is that in their own countries, they have an income tax. And if they build their products in the United States, that income tax goes away. They can sell a product. They can sell a BMW. They can sell a Sony television or whatever other product they're producing in the United States and save 30%, so they can now compete in the United States. Because what's going to happen is, because companies that build their product in the United States will be able to sell their product cheaper in the United States than they will be able to sell it under the income tax, simply because they've got less cost involved due to taxes. Well, what that means is that the foreign products come in, they've already got a tax built in. They've got their foreign income tax. They've also got VATs, but the VATs can be largely reduced. We talked about that in a previous goal what was that one? I forget the term. Where the taxes can be rebated, though, under a VAT. They can't do that under an income tax. And under a sales tax, there is no tax to be rebated. So what they're looking at is that we can produce it for less money in the United States and compete with U.S. manufacturers because we're able to produce again without the same without income tax as U.S. manufacturers. When they want to sell the product offshore, they sell it offshore. They sell it back into, say, Germany. Well, they don't pay tax on it until it hits German soil. There's no tax been applied. So U.S. products will sell cheaper. Well, this right there is incentive for foreign companies to come in, barring the language barrier, everything else. There is now an incentive for them to come in to the United States and build their products here without an income tax.
Absolutely. I tell you what, we got another one here that the fair tax is residency based. It applies only to retail purchases made in the United States. And if I'm not mistaken, we've touched on this before on the program. The United States is one of two countries, I think the Eritrea is the other one, that will tax its citizens on money they make outside the country, which is just absolutely nutso. And now that you live outside the country, that might hit you as well.
I spend most of my year outside the U.S. I've still got residency in Houston. I still have a place there. But I spend a lot of time outside the U.S. I've traveled all over the world. I lived in London for a year. And when you're outside the United States, you're not using roads, you're not using the all of the medical services and everything else, all the things that our taxes are paying for, you're not using. If I'm in London or if I'm in Panama or if I'm in, Taiwan, it doesn't matter. I'm using their services. I'm not using U.S. services. Why am I paying tax for services I'm not using? And like I say, right now, I spend most of my time outside the U.S. So, I come back to vote, come back for, conventions and such. But it's the whole idea is that so many people leave the United States just to go for work. I knew a girl who worked in Saudi Arabia for a while, worked for one of the oil companies, I forget which one now. But while she was over there, she had to pay U.S. tax on her income earned in Saudi Arabia. So that's
just philosophically wrong.
That is wrong. That's right. So that is where the fair tax excels, because if it's not sold within the borders of the United States or its territories, then there's no tax on it. So if you're not present to buy the product in the United States, there's no tax.
Yeah.
Now, if I order something on Amazon, there's a tax. Even if I have it shipped to another country, I still pay tax. But if it's not sold inside the United States, then there's no tax on it. That makes it residency based.
Indeed. And that again, these are not partisan talking points. This is just plain old-fashioned common sense as to what an ideal, of course, the ideal tax system would be one where everybody's tax rate is zero and the government is still fully funded. They haven't figured out how to do that yet. But when you
somebody's got to wave a magic wand or something.
All right.
I think that there would be an understanding, and a lot of people are thinking that tariffs are going to essentially get to a point where there is no income tax and no collection to the Treasury from the citizenry. And that, I think, is where we're stuck in this debate in a lot of ways as we move forward.
That's one of the things that we have to address, too, because, I agree with a lot of what Trump says, but having written 2 books on tax policy, I look at this and I say, wait, how can the numbers just don't match? We had like $3.7 trillion in products and the value of the products that came into the United States in 2022, which is just a little bit less than the total amount of income tax and payroll tax collected in 2022. So what that means is that there would have to be a slightly greater than 100% tariff on everything that came in that year. But
Yes.
wait, under certain guidelines and such, only 1.9 trillion of that was taxable, was tariffable. That's a tough word, tariffable, but it's a word. 1.9 trillion of the 3.7 trillion was actually tariffable. So if you now take that, we're going to have 200, 300% in some cases, because the tariff changes based on what country it comes from and what kind of product it is and so on. But you're going to have 2, 3, 4 times the value of the product in tariff just to match the revenue that we had in 2022.
Wow. Okay, we're getting short on time here. Let's hit one more point before we have to wrap this one up. This number 16 makes favoritism difficult. There's no favoritism under the income tax, is there?
Oh, no, not at all.
We have roughly, according to opensecrets.org, they track all of the lobbyists, and every lobbyist has to be registered. Not all of them really are. Some of them work around behind the scenes, but they track lobbyists better than anybody else. And according to them, roughly 50% of all lobbying activity has to do in some way with taxes. So if you eliminate the income tax, there is no way to play tax favors with a sales tax. How do you know, whether this person is a Republican or a Democrat, or whether this person is rich or poor? When he goes out and he buys a green widget, well, wait a minute, are you rich or are you poor? How much tax do I put on this? You don't know. There's no way for lobbyists to play favors, to go in and ask Congress to play favors with a sales tax. So you've just eliminated 50% of all lobbyists in Washington, D.C. on day one.
Oh,
K-Street,
right.
the K-Street prices would fall through the roof for rentals.
Oh, mercy. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we are up against the clock here again on FAIRtax Power Radio. John, we will have you back next week to finish out your list of 22 goals, what an ideal tax system should look like. We've made it through 16 of them. And again, we do appreciate your time here, sir.
Thank you.
And the rest of them should move a little bit faster, I think.
All right. We will find out next week exactly how that works. But for now, we're going to have to wrap it up right here and say thank you very much for listening and watching and sharing the videos. That helps a great deal if you would do that. So until we meet again here, same time, same channel next week, I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
And I'm John Gaver.
We're the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what would you do for her?
We've got several programs that will help her. We just need to find out how much she makes. But the good news is, the less she does, the more we can help.
Yeah.
If I may, with the fair tax, we wouldn't even tax her income. So the more she makes, the more she has.
But still, a consumption tax could eat up a lot of her income.
Which is why at the beginning of every month, we're actually going to give back all that she pays in taxes on basic necessities.
You're going to give her back her taxes?
Every month. On everything taxed on basic necessities. But we're also going to give it back to you and to every American citizen.
Why?
Well, we believe taxes should be fair.